on this tiny microcontinent of land. It's really a remarkable geologic phenomenon and a rare privilege, something most people will never get a chance to see in their lifetimes. This trip has been remarkable from a geologic perspective. Svalbard, Jan Mayen, Greenland, Iceland, we are looking at rocks that span billions of years. From the Beerenberg volcano that's erupted just in the last 40 years to rocks that we just saw a couple days ago in Svalbard that are more than 1 billion years old, caught up in plate collisions, twisted and tortured and deformed. It's really a remarkable opportunity.
We're in Greenland. We're on Greenland right now, and not many people in the world can claim that. What an accomplishment from yesterday in Jan Mayen to go there and to travel all this distance to see 9 polar bears and have an incredible weather and such beautiful scenery. Permafrost is down below. This area is just snow-free probably for, the flowers just came out, but those flowers bloom the second they get open. So it could be only a week or so where this hasn't had snow, so that the ground hasn't had time even to drain yet, and so it's holding on to all that moisture. But the avens, the moss campion, the willows, they stay green all year round. It's too energetically expensive, like trees in the north that lose their leaves in deciduous forest. It takes a lot of energy to replace those leaves. So keep the leaves, a couple die every year and new leaves will grow. But soon as that snow is gone and the sun is out, in fact, many plants start their process underneath the snowpack.
skies and an absolutely stunning view of the village directly ahead of the ship.
It was amazing to land in an Inuit village in eastern Greenland and pull up on the sand, seeing the children waiting for us, looking expectantly at the first group of people who have entered for the season. Wandering through their village, seeing where they live, seeing meat and clothing hanging from the clotheslines. And seeing the dogs they train, the sled dogs they train.
Puppies, can't be any cuter. Lindblad Expeditions trips focus a lot on photography. It not only allows the guests to experience these incredible places, but also improve their photographic skills. A trip in the Arctic provides lots of photographic opportunities, as well as some fantastic light. We have 24 hours of daylight, and it's magical. The landscapes are stunning. Although they're stark, they're truly stunning, and it allows us to work on macro flowers, as well as water, and certainly wildlife.
We've made it to Greenland, the largest island in the world, and we are now in Fjord, an area that hardly ever visited. In fact, what we could find is that the last expedition that was here was in 1932. So we're likely some of the first visitors to this area in a very, very long time. And this is why it's called Greenland, because you have this type of forest. It just grows down to the ground, but you can compare to what we saw in Svalbard, the thickness of the branches. These are steel willows, obviously a lot more organic material, and we're also a lot further south. We're at 69. In Svalbard we were close to 80. Of course, native populations should be able to keep hunting should they wish to in a sustainable way. But the problem is that they basically have automatic weapons and all the other things to go out. No control. And the birds, of course, the animals are the same as 10,000 years ago when they used to. So it has changed the balance quite a bit, and there are some people that is talking about the collapse of the Greenland wildlife.
My favorite animals to find when I dive down here are members of the invertebrate community. Diving in the Arctic is fascinating because it's true exploration. I never know what I'm going to see on the next dive.
So last night we ended our high Arctic adventure with an incredible adventure and seeing 8, maybe 9 different polar bears out on the sea ice about 20 nautical miles off the coast of Greenland. At first a female with 2 cubs, or koi, cub of the years, was spotted on a kill, and we slowly approached her and had some incredible time with watching her feeding on the seal, learning her cubs to eat the seal. And then as we left her, we went further into the ice, more dense ice, and we had earlier spotted a male there. He was sleeping. As we got closer, he got interested, but then he walked away. And then, to the great joy, another female with 2 cubs was spotted. And as we got closer, she just took off and started to run. And of course, at first you think you have interfered with the polar bears, but it turned out it wasn't us who had interfered. It was a male, big male, running probably to kill the cubs, which they do, the big males, because then they will have the female to be part of the mating system next spring. And that was really polar bear action on the spot to watch her cubs, and she just running over the ice floe, jump into the water and escape.
Just made our first landing in Iceland on Vigur Island, and it's an eider colony. We have flying puffins, we have guillemots, we have terns, some wonderful photographic opportunities. Photographically, it's going to be a challenge because we got a bit of rain, so keeping that front element clean is really important, like that. Also, it's the wind. You got to have a higher ISO so that it'll allow you to shoot at a faster shutter speed. That's important, especially getting these flying birds. So there's a number of tips about photographing in the Arctic, and one is exposure compensation. That's perhaps the biggest challenge for people. With the ice, especially polar bears on ice, you have to be aware of your meter being completely off because of the exposure compensation. Also photographing dark birds, as at Cape Fanshawe with the guillemots coming off the cliff and it's dark. So conversely, you have to change your exposure the other way.
It's really nice to learn more about how to change your aperture, your shutter speed, to get your creative shot, your white balance, all that kind of stuff.
On this trip, I've learned a lot from the professional photographers here on the different way to look at things, how to set the lighting, and I really appreciate that.
Growing up in Iceland, it gives you some kind of, it's not fear, but it's some kind of weird respect that you learn as soon as you're born. And in this area, it's the snow and the ocean that you should be like respectfully afraid of.
Okay, so if you were to ask me what this trip meant to me, it meant that places I've been looking at on a map since I was 5 years old and wondering who lived there and what they were like and what the weather was like and what the animals were like, I finally got to find out. I finally got to see, and that's like the definition of a dream come true.
I think the most incredible part about it is that every day is really unplanned. It's really new, it's different. There's no set itinerary, and you discover things that you never expected that you might see or that you might do.
But it's just the people, the experience, being a true explorer, like the days of old. That's really exciting, to be places that maybe only a few people go to every year or only Inuit hunters go to.
I had heard from previous fellows about how incredible and amazing these trips are, but even still, I tried to keep my expectations kind of at a minimum. You know, we're not going to really see a polar bear. We're not going to see blue whales, orcas. And so I've been blown away by what we have seen.
I think I had a really simplistic view of the Arctic initially. So what I was kind of seeking out was driven on my students' questions. And on one level, they're asking me questions that were about kind of this well-preserved nature of the Arctic, but then there were also these questions that were kind of talking about were interested in the bleakness, I guess, austerity of the Arctic. And what I found is that it's actually much more complex than what I initially thought.